It's Wizards versus Lesbians, a podcast for your ears. Hello, and welcome to the 4th annual Wizzly Awards. Are you insane?
Wow.
We've been doing yeah,
Somehow.
we've been doing this for 4 years. It's involved a lot of ups and downs. Really hasn't. We've just kept putting out episodes every couple of weeks for the last 4 years.
Our lives have involved a lot of ups and downs.
The world has had a lot of ups and downs.
But the podcast
Just
just keeps going.
Books.
And the occasional other piece of media.
For the news for year 5 coming up is that we're going to be talking to more authors.
Yay!
We have like four guest episodes lined up already. So if you are an author whose book that we've praised and you are interested enough in Wizards vs. Lesbians to be listening to this, our most self-indulgent episode of the year, then drop us a line. There's every chance that we'll be willing to have you on to talk about not your book, but another book, any other book of
Any
your
other
choice.
book.
I mean, if they want to.
I mean, if they want to come on, if they know that we've been less than positive about their book, and yet they still want to come on to talk about somebody else's book, they are welcome to do so, as far as I'm concerned.
We're all grown-ups here. You know, we don't take anything too personally, at least I hope not. So,
I take everything extremely personally.
Yes, but fortunately, you're not one of the podcast hosts.
You're part
so.
of what I
no.
decided during the Moby Dick episode is called the Wizards vs. Lesbians Auxiliary, which includes you.
I was thinking of them as the advisory board, but auxiliary also works.
I was thinking expanded universe.
I don't like that, so we're going with... Oh, Kiana's also here.
Oh, am I in a separate category? Yes, I'm here.
No, Kiana is also part of the
You-
expanded universe.
I don't think that I had said hello to you yet.
Well, we haven't
Oh, you're
done
right. We haven't.
introductions.
Hello and welcome to Wizards vs. Lesbians. My name is Isaac.
I'm Alexis.
Yeah, okay.
I'm Leora.
I'm Kiana.
And yes, and that'll make sense when I edit it. I think that my personal treat, as
gravy.
far as the self-indulgence of this episode is that this one's barely getting edited. You guys, we're going in raw.
Oh no!
Oh, yes.
Oh no!
I'm ready.
This is one of those examples of karma in action because we managed to lose like half of Lee's audio for this episode. So it's sort of been patched together. And as you might expect, that took a bit of effort. Never tempt fate.
All right, guys. All right. In that case,
It's
the Wizzlies, our annual award show.
This year's format will be the same as last year's format.
Because we liked how last year's format worked.
Kiana and Leora will be offering nominations for the categories. Alexis and I will vote on those nominations, and in the event of a tiebreak, Lee will adjudicate the final thing, but otherwise we'll do nothing, and except to sort of hang around. So,
Which is how they prefer it.
yes, this is true. I mean, yes. Alexis and I at least have read all of them. Some of the rest of the opinions may be based on secondhand information, but again...
Such as
Yeah,
what went on in
quite
the
a few of
podcast.
these categories
All right,
are
so-
based on your reactions to the books.
Which is perfectly valid. All right, so let's get into it. So the first category is Best Wizard.
Let's start with Kiana, and we will alternate back and forth to make it fair for if people nominated the same thing and have to go to a secondary or something.
God forbid
I do have backups.
God forbid this award process not be 100% fair and ethical.
So anyway, I'm choosing Kiana, who's sitting next to me, to go first for the first round. Kiana, who's your nominee for Best Wizard?
My vote for Best Wizard, the 2024 Wizzly Awards, is Talus from the Scorpion Rules. I think just a all-around exemplary wizard. Bonus points for... when I read the Scorpion Rules, I actually read it before I had listened to the podcast. I was shocked when I saw the publication date. Like, just so ahead of the zeitgeist in many ways. Talos is, like, really irritating and charming, and you hate him, and he's also possessing an innocent woman, or more or less innocent woman. Just a wretched guy, and he's such a wizard. It's great. Bonus points for, like, becoming a dad, you know, all of it.
That's a very compelling nomination. I will say Talus was absolutely on my short list, but my nominee for Best Wizard goes to a very particular type of wizard, which is Coach Bakula.
Oh, he was going to be my honorable mention.
Coach Bakula, who really exemplifies the kind of wizard that everybody knows he's got a sketchy thing going on, but he coaches the football team, so we don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like this is a very true-to-life sort of wizard figure who I really, really hate. And that is why I chose him to nominate, as opposed to Talus, who I also hate but am less familiar with in my real life.
I'm really impressed that the Saint of Bright Doors dad didn't make this one.
He was on
my
sort of
list,
secondary
but
he's too complicated.
He's also not as personally, like, on a personality level, hateful to me.
He doesn't. Right. Well, honestly, he doesn't have the sheer charisma, like hateable, punchable face charisma that.
Yeah, it is in fact.
That really both Coach Bakula and Talus have.
Yeah, whereas Talus is, like, needy, and Bakula is...
Yeah.
Talus is like,
things.
I'm so snarky. Here is a book of my snarky comments that you should study, because if you don't, I might
He has his own little red book, you guys. I mean,
bomb your city from space. But it's all in the name of world peace.
I wouldn't put it past Coach Bakula to, like, publish a little, book of his football aphorisms, at a vanity press.
Oh, sure.
Make it mandatory to be sold at games or whatever, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, no, these are two extremely strong contenders. So, Isaac, what's your ruling?
It too.
Well, these were my top two. I am going to go with Talus for sheer foresight, is the word that I want. Because not only does Talus, like, sort of foreshadow the way that the Wizards versus Lesbians genre would develop many years after the publication of the Scorpion Rules, but he also foreshadows the kind of guy that we're currently dealing with on a national level. He is the ascended tech bro asshole who became God Emperor, and I think that I want to give the Scorpion Rules particular credit for noticing that guy that early. So I will say Talus.
Yeah, I gotta say, the first time I read this, which was, like, not long at all after it came out, and I kind of liked Talus, and then rereading it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate him.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is because, I'm older and wiser and have had way more exposure to this kind of guy, and have also watched people who were that kind of guy but charming about it become that kind of guy but not charming about it. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's really got to be Talus because, back when I was younger and in grad school, it almost worked on me. So
God.
he really is just a classic wizard. And, the Scorpion Rules really does work very well for teaching you to spot that kind of guy.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is part of what the Wizles genre exists to do, is inoculate you against these people.
100%. So that is a clear win for Talus from the Scorpion Rules.
But two real strong contenders.
Oh, yeah.
I love Coach Bakula.
Coach Bakula's great.
Which I don't think we
Slash
mentioned.
horrible.
That's from the X-Files of Dracula. Leora, will you start us off with Best Lesbian?
My nominee for Best Lesbian is such a good lesbian, such an excellent sword lesbian, that she is the only lesbian in the world. That's right, my nominee is Tevi from the Liarmouth Chronicles. She lives in a default bisexual world after she leaves her extremely heterosexual island. And she's so much of a lesbian. There's even a bit where somebody tries, like, to love enchant her to fall for him, to drive a wedge between her and Gemeril, and it doesn't work because Gemeril's like, oh, she would never go for you. You're a dude. And everyone's just
that's in the
question
third
marks.
book.
That's in the third book. But anyway, Tevi of the Liarmouth Chronicles, the lesbianist.
Kiana.
Sure. My pick for best lesbian is Laura from Carmilla. She also shows up again in a different form. It was that book called An Education in Malice,
Yes.
right?
A twofer.
A
It's
twofer.
Laura for this season.
Just sort of an archetypal lesbian. I'm going for like pure influence on the genre.
Historical interest.
Historical interest.
It's very
That's about
funny
it.
because my second choice was Carmilla.
Well, they're both very archetypal
Yeah, yeah.
lesbians. I gotta say, in this case, I find Leora's very compelling. I mean, really, both are very compelling, but Tevi being the only lesbian in a bisexual world. Also, the fact that we later learned that the Liarmouth Chronicles started out as Xena AU fanfic, and so Tevi is also Xena. And if you want to talk about impact on the lesbian world,
True.
you know, there's a lot of lesbians out there, I'm pretty sure, who owe their lesbian awakening to Xena. So I think I am in fact going to go with Tevi.
Well, unfortunately I must agree with you. I mean, the fact that Tevi is just Xena.
Yeah. It's a strong case.
Really difficult to argue with, and also that it is a default bisexual world, and in over like 4 books, she's the only person who is exclusively attracted to women, seemingly on the planet. So yes, that's really difficult to argue with.
She's really the only she's the only monosexual outside of her island.
Yeah. I would really like to. I'd like to sort of give an honorable mention to Marguerite from Daughter of Mystery.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
because she's a real solid
Solid.
brick and mortar meat and potatoes lesbian.
Really, as is Barbara,
Yes.
Yeah.
who's, you know, like, this was a good year for lesbians.
It was.
Other candidates I considered included Bren Cameron.
Was that this year?
It was this year.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
It's been
My
a long
Foreigner
notes
was
also
this year.
suggest the mean autistic best friend from the Sue
From
and
Zen-
Swain.
Oh,
by
nice.
Zen Cho.
Oh, she was also a great lesbian. This really was a banner year for lesbians.
Yeah, that was the Spirits Abroad story with the ghee demon or whatever it was, the coconut oil demon.
Yeah, with the oil palm
Yeah,
demon,
palm oil
the oil
demon.
demon.
Best wizard versus lesbian conflict. Kiana is up first for this one.
For best conflict, I chosen to nominate Ryuko versus her mom from Kill La Kill.
It's first of all, it's the only one that has a giant anime battle involved. Like, I mean, it's the first wizard versus lesbians conflict that we've had that has one of those. I mean, Utena doesn't even really have it to this extent.
No, it's
And
true.
also, you know, we have the grooming, the abandonment, the manipulation, the murder, the bit where she tries to get her daughter on side by, like, you know, trying to brainwash her into heteronormative womanhood, like by magic in like 5 minutes, and it sort of works. So yeah, that's where I'm going with that one.
My nominee for best conflict is also a protagonist versus parent. My nominee is Fedor versus both his mom and dad from The Saint of Bright Doors. I think that the conflicts there are really interesting. I think they're really compelling. I really appreciate that there's the conflict both between his mom and his dad, and also between him and both of them. It's not he's on either side versus the other one, even though that's what his mother really wants. But that kind of incredibly fucked up family dynamic that has implications for the whole subcontinent or whatever. Is this continent? City?
Continent,
world?
It used to be a subcontinent, an island, and then because of the wizard, is
Yes.
one landmass. But
It's a continent.
It's now a continent. Anyway, I think that this particular conflict really embodies both the interpersonal and the imperial stuff going on, and made for a really compelling book.
So, like, once again, I'm shying away from Saint of Bright Doors, partially because I don't want it, because this year could easily be a Saint of Bright Doors sweep.
Saint of Bright Doors. This could definitely be Saint of Bright Doors is the Titanic
of the Wizzleys for this year. So I partially in order to shy away from that, and partially just because I think that it's too complicated to be like, to like be the wizard versus lesbians conflict in the way that we've understood it for this show. I'm gonna go with Ryuko versus her mom from KLK.
I think I'm going to go with Fetter's parents versus each other and also versus Fetter from The Saint of Bright Doors, because I think that we should reward complexity. And also because I promised Lee that I would give more nominees to prose books, even though I think Lee might end up tie-breaking in favor of Kill la Kill, given how much they love it.
So this one is really hard for me. I do really like Kill la Kill. I think if it was Satsuki versus her mother, I would have a much better time with it. But ultimately, I think it's got to be Saint of Bright Doors. And I always want to support books over other media. And two, I don't think that because it's going to win a lot is a reason not to give it an award in a particular category. This is very good in Saint of Bright Doors. It deserves to win, so it should win.
Best romance.
Yes, I am nominating the lesbian fantasy of the Smell Witch and the Cat Shifter from Zencho's short story, because, like, it's just such a beautiful lesbian fantasy of, I took this cat home, and now it's my girlfriend who will cook for me, and we'll take care of each other.
And she's really hot.
And
she's like instigating, so I don't even have to be a useless lesbian about it.
Right. No,
right?
She just turns
We're already cohabitating.
Right. It's the ultimate
we don't
U-Haul.
have to do that. Like that is my nominee for best romance.
That is strong. Kiana, for best romance?
Sure. For best romance, I had Marguerite and Barbara from The Daughter of Mystery. I just really liked their dynamic. Some interesting stuff with power dynamics in class that kind of shift, and I just think it's sweet.
Yeah, the fact that we managed a romance where it's like the Duke and the Serf romance switches characters mid book, so the Duke becomes the Serf, and the Serf becomes the Duke.
You've really got it's feudal lady and handmaiden.
Right, but each character is a switch in the feudal lady
right.
and handmaiden department.
Oh, this is a tough one. This is genuinely tough. On the one hand, I love everything by Zen Cho, and it's like the perfect lesbian fantasy. But I think it's the perfect fantasy. I don't know if it's the perfect romance. I actually feel like the romance, it's such a perfect lesbian fantasy that it ends up kind of skipping over the romance a little bit. So I think I am going to go with Barbara and Marguerite for best lesbian romance.
Excellent. I agree with you. I think that we have sort of moved away from straight up romances this season. There aren't as many of them.
Plus, like, it's so classic. It's your sword and your sorceress. Like,
yeah. So I'm like, I mean, we did have Tevi, I guess, for the sword and the sorceress.
That's true. You also have your sword and sorceress. But I mean, the thing is that, like, this could also have originated as Xena fan fiction, or sorry, Xena Uber.
Yes, I did.
Like, it's so classic, and yet the fact that they keep like switching who gets to be the power, the feudal lord and lady, and who gets to be the handmaiden, I feel like sort of adds a little bit of freshness to what is otherwise just extremely classic.
All right.
So I was very charmed by that book.
Chalk one up for that, and Lee doesn't need to say anything. All right.
I mean, Lee is always allowed to weigh in at any point. They're just not called on to make a ruling.
And here is one of the places where they did. Oh, well. Best love interest. Kiana.
Yeah, on that note, I'm just going to nominate Barbara from Daughter of Mystery. She's cool, competent, has a sword, and all the aforementioned interesting relationship stuff. I just really enjoyed it. I like Barbara. I'm Team Barbara.
Barbara's real cool.
My nominee is Thenica from Ammonite. She's kind. She has weird music magic. Her presence is healing. As a love interest, I think these are good, attractive traits. She also has the ability to have a joint meditation that will get you pregnant together.
That is strong.
Which, I just feel like that's pretty cool.
Sorry, just Kiana's face. Anyway.
I didn't read that one.
It's okay, I didn't read Daughter of Mystery. So that is my nominee, Thenica from Ammonite.
Thenica from Ammonite. Well, it's interesting because like Barbara in Daughter of Mystery is like it's very tropey. It's very Regency.
Totally. Yeah.
It's like it's sort of, even though it does a bunch of like interesting sort of flips and flops with it, it's very Route One. Whereas like Thenica is more like if you sat down a 90s lesbian and we're like, what is your ideal woman look like? And like, okay, she's a shaman, and and she can get me pregnant with her mind. There is something very specific and domestic and like culturally planted in the fantasy of Athenica. So I think I will give it to Thenica.
Yeah, so this is a little unfair because Leora and I were both reading the Essential Dykes to Watch Out For over Shabbos collection, which we got from the library. And Thenica is absolutely could be the like fantasy love interest that basically any of the women in that comic, could have constructed. So I think I too have to give it to Thenica.
Thenica takes it. Now it is time for Best Token Good Man. Leora, I think.
Yes. I believe it is my turn. I am nominating Alfie from the Scholomance books. Alfie is the descendant of English royalty. He's like privilege McPrivilege face. He's the embodiment of white European privilege. He's rich. He's got the family. He's got the magic. He's got everything handed to him, and all he wants is for a strong woman to point him in the right direction so he can use his powers for good.
It was my second choice.
Yeah. Quote, the British kid from Scholomance, unquote. But my pick would have to be, just for the sheer misandry of the surrounding material, Sylvie's brother from Daughters of Chaos.
This is so hard though because he's not good. No. He's a Confederate.
He's an arsonist, a murderer, and a Confederate. However, he's
an arsonist, murderer.
But by the standards of the book.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's the contrast.
I'm sorry. I get it, and it's a really good argument. And like Alfie is not really the one good man in the book because there's other
guys.
But like the thing is, Kiana, you make a really compelling argument, but as a liberal Southerner, I cannot vote for a Confederate in any category that has the word good, unless it's, would be more good if dead.
So moral relativism has no place in the best token good dude award.
Not when it comes to, the thing is, it does, but there's a line to be drawn, and it is drawn. And if you were only an arsonist and a murderer, I would totally buy it. But I cannot give it to a Confederate. I'm sorry.
It's fair.
He fought the Confederate army, so I got to go with Alfie. Privileged McPrivileged face.
I'm going to choose to focus on the word token rather than the word good in the best token good dude. I've been thinking about tokenism a lot lately and how it works, and like how good exactly you have to be in order to be a token. And I think no, actually, I don't want to. The tentacle monster shouldn't slaughter all men, because look at my brother. I loved him. Kind of encapsulates what a token means. And so
this is also a very compelling argument. I'm not changing my vote, but I do find this to be a very compelling argument.
So over to you, Lee.
Oh, this one is really unpleasant. Boy, let's see. Who's worse? The British nobility or the Confederates? That is not a particularly easy choice. It feels like this was a bad year for token good men. Either there were just more fleshed out male characters, or there were just no token good men. It feels like in some ways this is the zeitgeist is moving away from this in several different ways. But anyway, between the two, and hopefully with no strong political aspect to it, just looking in the text itself, I'm pretty persuaded by Kiana's argument that Sylvie's brother is very, very tokenized in a way that Alfie isn't. And so in the spirit of best token, emphasis on the token, not the good, I would give it to Sylvie's brother from Daughters of Chaos.
There were no possessors last year, so we didn't do best possessor, but we have at least two candidates this year, at least two that I could think of. So back the award comes. Kiana, who are you going to say for best possessor?
I mean, it's neck and neck for me here, but I'm going to ultimately go with the unfettered possessing fetter from The Saint of Bright Doors. It's kind of the axis around which the entire narrative revolves. It's kind of, quote, a plot twist, but in my mind, it's one that's really satisfying, and once the unfettered makes himself known, kind of like, oh yeah, it works. I loved it.
And it also is a fine double consciousness metaphor in the same way that our best possessors.
Yeah, or having a younger sibling,
Mm-hmm.
like
It works on so many levels.
So many levels, yeah. An annoying younger sibling who won't leave you alone.
Lyra.
My nominee is the super suit from Kill la Kill, which
Oh.
I have not seen. My nominee here is based on your podcast, largely. I did also consider Talus, but we already discussed him. I think the feeding it blood thing is... That's a thing, right? I got that right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So definitely.
He does drink
It
her
eats
blood.
Ryuko's blood.
And the relationship between the two of them in terms of her role in the universe, her arc. I just thought that was a really interesting relationship between possessor and possessee. Also, I liked the idea of nominating a super suit.
Clothes.
That was just
Close.
Lee points out that Kill la Kill keeps going up against the Saint of Bright Doors. And I think there's a crossover here involving the textile industry.
All right, so Isaac, who are you voting for?
Simply just on the technicality that when Ryuko wears Senketsu, Ryuko's personality overwhelms Senketsu's, not the other way around. If anything, she possesses him when she puts him on. I'm going to vote for the Unfettered. Also because the Unfettered is like an incredible possessor, as, by the definition of Wizzles. But Yeah.
Yeah, I got to give this
Oh,
one
yeah,
to the
no.
Unfettered.
Clearly. I am not upset about this.
The Unfettered is a real classic Wizzly's possessor.
Yeah.
And, you know, a metaphor that works on many levels, and just, you know, a character in its own right. And also, it, like, all the best possessors is somewhat, you know, possessed back. Like, there's that, you know. A+. I'm definitely going to vote for Saint of Bright Doors over Kill la Kill, even though I do love Kill la Kill.
In this case, there's really no argument to be made there.
Best monstrous child of a narcissistic parent.
And boy, did we have a lot of those this year.
This is a banner year for bad moms. So the worst mom award coming up later is also going to be a real good one.
It's, you know what, the best, never mind, we'll get to it when we get to it. I have a suspicion about the worst mom award. But best monstrous child of narcissistic parents, it's, whose turn is it to go first?
Leora's, I thought.
Yeah, it is.
I believe it is mine, and I'm nominating Feder from the Saint of Bright Doors.
That's also the nomination over here. So
he's kind of monstrous.
Well, no, I have a backup.
Okay.
Hold your horses.
I also had a backup. I wasn't sure how it was going to work
all right.
with which of us, and I figured whichever one of us went first was going to nominate Feder. But yeah, we've already discussed a lot of the ways in which Feder embodies this. His parents, both of them, are extremely narcissistic, and Feder is spends the whole book dealing with his own monstrousness and how it relates to his parents and prophecy and what he's going to do.
Kiana?
Sure, I'll put my strawman candidate up here. Is Epilogue from Someone You Can Build a Nest In. I only listened to the episode. I didn't read this, but Isaac, if you want to say any words about Epilogue.
I mean, literally monstrous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which helps. And I think possibly the best, and to this date only, like, how do you actually, you know, try to raise the monstrous child of the narcissistic parent correctly happens
Right.
in the epilogue of Someone You Can Build a Nest In which epilogue the child is raised by the narcissistic parent's partner while the narcissistic parent is shut down with seasonal depression. And I think that is the best part of that book. And it's also like, you know, it literalizes the thing. So,
Yes.
you know, it's not a bad choice. Any other year, you know.
Sure.
Any other year, that would be a strong candidate.
Sure.
But yeah, no, it's obviously.
It's obviously Feder.
It's obviously
Orion is
Feder.
also, like, in a different year. Orion is another really...
This was a great year for monstrous children of narcissistic parents.
Yeah.
Shout out to the podcast, the podcasters. But yeah, no, it's got to be Feder.
I didn't need to catch that stray, actually. Thanks.
I wasn't necessarily talking about you there.
You amended podcaster to podcasters.
Yeah, I was talking. I said to the podcast, and then I said podcasters. I was in fact referring to myself, but
Yes.
you know.
But no, it is equally accurate for me.
Next on our list is most developed setting. Kiana, you get to go first.
All right. My most developed setting is a little book you might have heard of called The Saint of Bright Doors. It's so textured. It's so detailed. It's hilarious. It functions both as a satire and as an actual, like,
Place.
horrible,
Yeah.
you know, complicated, semi-post-colonial, yet also pre-colonial, like, time is messed up, but all these details and texture feel so real and true to life, while also being, like, hilarious. Saint of Bright Doors. And the city, which the name I can't remember specifically.
Yes. I'm trying to look up the name of the city right now.
Thank you.
So that we can name it properly. But
Yeah.
In the meantime, I will nominate The World of the Atevi from the Foreigner series. It's got real varied climates, really vividly described. You can really, like, feel yourself riding on one of the lizard horses through the cold, icy snow, and also later on the ocean. It's got many different political viewpoints, different, the court politics are very well depicted. You get a real sense for all of these underlying currents, cultural norms, and where their cultural norms break up, superstitions. I just found the whole world. There's always something more to explore. And also, that what makes those books so fun is watching Bren explore the world and get to know it and bring us along on that ride.
I will say that simply because it took 420 books to develop that kind of density and depth, and the Santa Bright Doors manages it in 400 pages. The city's laureate, incidentally.
Thank you.
Yes.
And also, if it's Revachol, you know, it's like the degree of history and texture and world building and complication.
I can't believe you
I
used
did
the
consider-
fascist. You used the fascist pronunciation of Revachol right there, Isaac.
I did.
I considered nominating Revachol, but I wanted to really cut down on the non-book recommendations that I did this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would, if you had nominated Revachol, I would have had to think about it, but and I'm giving it to the Santa Bright Doors on this one.
I feel like Laureate, I mean, this is a really tough one. I feel like I could really go either way. Laureate is very densely textured and indeed is way more developed in 400 pages. I wouldn't say that it takes 420 books to get there, but it takes 400 like at least 3, and really more like 9. So, you know, on the other hand, when Leora was reading the series for the first time and I was rereading it, you know, bits of Atevi definitely snuck their way into just our daily conversations. So just to make Lee decide to be tiebreaker, I'm going with The World of the Atevi.
So I've only read the first Foreigner book, and that probably biases me here because, I mean, I just have to give it to Santa Bright Doors. It does so much. It's really good. I believe you that Foreigner gets, you know, that gets more fleshed out as it goes on, but I personally haven't seen that, and that is, yeah. So I think I have to give it to Santa Bright Doors again.
Honestly, if I thought that you were going to give it to Foreigner, I'd have had more qualms over voting for The World of the Atevi, but because Laureate, I think, definitely deserves best setting. Or Revachol, but, you know, that one didn't get nominated, and also I'm really trying to vote more for prose as opposed to other forms of media.
Disco Elysium is over 1 million words long, which puts it at about 2 Infinite Jests, or nearly 1 à la Recherche du Temps Perdu. And I keep forgetting whether we count bonus episodes, so...
We don't really, but whatever. It's
Yeah.
It's not like we enforce these rules very heavily.
Right.
Who's gonna stop us?
All right, and so best jingle.
Oh, it's the Glazing Isaac category. All right. Leora, what's your nominee for best jingle?
The Goldilocks and the Lesbian Colonies from Ammonite. I spent a lot of time thinking about what makes a best jingle, and I picked this one partly because it's catchy, but also because I felt like it really did a good job of summing up some of the themes of your discussion and of the book. There were also really good jingles that were like Isaac sings a Le Guin quote, which was really good, but it was Le Guin, really. And this is the Make Isaac Feel Good podcast award. And I did also want to give an honorable mention to the Postal Workers' Lament from the Someone You Can Build a Nest In, which wasn't really about the book. It was about making sure that your stairs are clear of rosemary for your belabored postal worker, and I appreciate that public service.
Cool. We will now listen to nominee 1.
The first lesbian colony was too agrarian. The second lesbian colony was too cold. The third lesbian colony had the right kind of lesbian and a hot tub.
My vote for best jingle is a small cover of the song Floating Boy by Fugazi. That's from, you guessed it, the Saint of Bright Doors episode. It's ominous, it's moody, it's like short. It perfectly encapsulates like the mood and the themes of the book. I almost hesitated to nominate it just because it's short and it's kind of a more direct cover of a song. But also, like, it's a really sick guitar riff, and Isaac learned it for this episode. So let's give it a listen.
It's not just about being sympathetic. It's about being right about some things. If you're a floating boy who's trying to understand a confusing world, being confronted by a complete moral system that is partially verifiable, it can be very tempting.
Alexis.
All right. Well, these are both very good. I think I'm going with the Goldilocks and the Lesbian Colonies because it's not a cover, or if it is a cover, I don't recognize what it's a cover of.
All right. So speaking.
Well, I should clarify the words are Isaac's.
No, I know.
Okay.
Speaking. So for my part, I think that no, the Goldilocks one is just me noodling. But I listened to Fugazi a lot when I was a young person. I loved
You sure
Fugazi.
did.
Thanks. Can you tell that I subjected Alexis to a lot of the music that I liked without really thinking about whether Alexis liked the kind of music that I liked when we were in college? At least nobody nominated Beck this time around. But...
When will you learn there are other people with their own tastes, values, and goals? It took a while, till my mid-20s at least, for my psyche stat to increase. Till then I thought this stuff is pleasant, better than average number of chords. White boys are moaning, lyrics are phoning it in. That's the original sin.
I'm proud that I learned that one, and also I think that the overall effect of it is more effective. So I'm gonna go for the Fugazi one.
It's a very good one.
Lee, tiebreaker.
Well, I think this is going to be another time where you really should not have given me this power because I'm not going to give the award to either of them. I'm going to give it to the Postal Workers' Lament because it's about rosemary and overgrown rosemary, two topics that are very close to my heart in a very personal way, even though my mailbox is at the street, as Isaac just said. It is, I have to deal with a lot of overgrown rosemary myself. And also love to have fresh rosemary to put on things. So I'm going to go with the Postal Workers song.
If you usually enter your house by a method that doesn't take you through your front door or otherwise past where your mailbox or mail slot is located, consider that somebody else has to make that trip every day and maintain your access accordingly. Make sure your steps aren't rotten or covered with slime. Prune your plants. Imagine that someone a foot taller than you might have to pass through your space. Not to mention your dog. This is a losing battle, I'm aware of that, but just try to think of it for a little bit.
All right, so next up, I believe, is Deadest Author.
In the Barthian sense.
And the Barthian sense. Has nothing to do with the actual vital status of the actual person who wrote the book.
Kiana.
Sure. My nominee is Planetfall by Emma Newman. I think I didn't read it, but just from listening to the episode, Isaac in particular was able to read it in a way that the author almost certainly didn't intend. And I thought it was a great episode because of that. It generated a lot of discussion. So
My nominee is also going to go to a book that I did not read.
This is appropriate, I feel like, for the
this
category.
one is about
Yeah.
the reaction.
I'm nominating Hannah Porter of the Seep. Because you spent a lot of that episode arguing with the text, against the text, trying to decide what was intended to be satire, and if you read this as satire, it's really hilarious satire, but is it meant to be satire? And I just felt like there was it was not one where you didn't feel the presence of the author at all. It was one where you felt the presence of the author as a negative space you were responding to, and I feel like that is at the heart of the Deadest Author Award.
All right. So for a number of reasons, partially because I'm not sure that I agree with that interpretation of the Deadest Author Award. I think that if you're fighting the author is less dead. I think Emma Newman actually makes a space in the work for multiple interpretations. Like, if you want to believe in like human instrumentality and going to the top of the ziggurat and becoming immortal at the end, you're given space to do that. If you think it's bullshit, you're given space to believe that, given what the book has already done. And so I feel like in terms of like being a good author and stepping out of the way of the text, I want to give this to Emma Newman as in a complimentary way. And also that particular argument that Alexis and I have all the time in like, and it's not really an argument, but discussion of, is this satire? What, how am I supposed to be reading this? Is my least favorite discussion that we have, that we keep having because it keeps coming up. Because it's like, the author's dead. We answered this in the preamble. We can just say that the book says this, but we keep having to second guess ourselves. So I'm gonna go with Planetfall.
Yeah, I do think that is a valid interpretation of the Deadest Author category. It's certainly one that we've used plenty in the past. Mm-hmm. But I think that in that case, we really were wrestling too much with the author to consider the author to be dead. And that Planetfall in particular, we really were able to set the author aside and just like dig into some different interpretations.
It was a great episode because of that.
Yeah, and so I think that was one, complimentary or otherwise, where it really did feel like we were able to just really take the text on its own terms, and that, which made it really enjoyable. So I think that, it's got to go to Planetfall.
Yes. I think incidentally, as befits the award, you can interpret Deadest Author in any way that you want. Right. The author, i.e. me, of this award is dead, so,
Right. In this case, I think that Planetfall had, really encouraged the most sort of postmodern reading.
I did also consider going off the rails and nominating the least dead author, the alivest author, the author that was most present in your discussion, which was going to go to Nabokov.
Even though he is actually dead, and as far as I know, Emma Newman isn't. He is more alive in the
Correct. I would like to nominate him for the honorary alivest author.
The Revenant, unholy Revenant author.
This year's Wizzly's gives a special Lifetime Achievement Award to Vladimir Nabokov for being the alivest author.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is a Lifetime Achievement Award, ironically. All right.
The next is, fan favorite category. And by fan, I mean, I don't know who. Least Homestuck.
I mean, it's us. We're the only fans of the Wizzlies, as far as I'm aware.
Yes.
This is just for us. I keep saying that every time. Fun. It doesn't get any less true. Thank you all for enabling us.
My choice for least Homestuck goes to a work that is A, short, B, extremely good, C, very heartwarming, and D, Alexis really likes it. My award for least Homestuck goes to If at First You Don't Succeed by Zencho.
Why does the Zen show short stories getting the love here? And for good reason. They're really good. Kiana.
Yeah, my least homestuck is Daughter of Mystery. I think like sort of a fantasy Regency romance with like not that many characters, you know?
It's brief, it's internally consistent, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's like
It's not brief.
It's brief.
It feels
It's
brief
concise
to me. I don't know.
Oh right, you thought that one dragged and I didn't. I remember now.
Yeah.
I do love if at first you don't succeed, try again. I actually think Daughter of Mystery might be less homestuck, though. Like, if at first you don't succeed, try again is doing some things with, like, format
Yep.
Right.
and form and
time.
Daughter of Mystery and time. And Daughter of Mystery is just such a classic Regency romance, but lesbians, that I think we got to give it to Daughter of Mystery.
Serves me right for trying to pander.
I mean, and I unfortunately, because I would like to give it for if at first you don't succeed in a word because it's incredible. This is not the award that I would really choose to give anything.
Right, yeah.
And I
At
think,
least homestuck isn't really a complimentary
yeah,
award in the
and
same
like there's
way.
also like some interesting stuff with like modern tech and weird in settings where it doesn't belong, and like cadence changes and modern voices versus classical voices, which is all homestuck. And Daughter of Mystery doesn't do any of that. So the least homestuck it is.
It's just a normal book.
It is like, it's the sort of thing that if somebody were like, I've read Homestuck and I want to read something that's entirely unhomestuck, like to like deprogram and detoxify, I would be, your Daughter of Mystery would be a great suggestion.
Well, maybe this will lead into the next category, which on my paper at least is best short story.
Great. Let's do, I didn't have that one written down, but yes, let's absolutely do best short story nominees.
All right, Kiana, question mark?
Yeah.
Yes.
My pick for best short story is Nuka by Anna Hurtado. I think it's just an incredible short story, and I don't have anything else to say about it. It's just really, really good.
Oh boy. There may be some favoritism if this comes to a tiebreak.
My nominee, unsurprisingly, is If at First You Don't Succeed, Try Again by Zen Cho, which is, as I have said, really, really good. Really beautiful. Heartwarming. Has, nails the ending. And is pandering to my spouse.
I'm going to give it to Nuka for two reasons. One of which is that it is the only thing that we've read for this podcast that has made me get out the old dictionary or dictionary.com. But that was such a novel experience to be deluged in that kind of prose that I want that to be recognized. In addition to just being a great piece of good old magical realism.
Yeah.
And I love If at First You Don't Succeed, and I think it's a great story, but I think Alexa's going to go for it, and I want to make Lee wrestle with
With ethics.
I think as a classical short story, that's why I like Nuka so much, because it has so much of that magical realism weirdness, while also, conforming to the genre of Wizzlas as we
Alexis,
laid it down.
Yes. Alexis, what's
Nuka's great, but when I had given up on academia, I read If at First You Don't Succeed, and it made me feel better about my life, so I gotta give it to that one.
Lee?
Even if it did make me cry on the max.
Hey, Lee's back.
So, in the interest of ethical disclosure, Anna is a friend of mine. Anna Hurtado, the author of Nuka, is a friend of mine. And also, I have been with her to the place where they have the wild night in Nuka that causes them all to manifest faces on the back of their necks. Which is very nice. That said, this is completely self-indulgent, and I'm totally going to give it to Nuka. I really like that story a lot.
It's so good.
I can't say for certain whether I can fully separate the fact that I really like Anna as a human being from the fact that I really like her story, but I like it a lot. it is my favorite thing that she's written. Favorite short fiction that she's written, and it's really good. If only for the scene with the swallowing a spider whole, which just sort of lives in the back of my subconscious, and I am reminded of it fairly regularly. So, yeah, definitely giving that to Nuka.
All right. I must stress that If At First You Don't Succeed, Try Again by Zen Cho is really great. But I did want to give Lee the chance to do that. Worst Mom, I think, is next.
I have a bunch of others ahead of that, but
Never
sure,
mind.
let's go to Worst Mom.
Worst
No,
Mom.
that's fine. Worst Mom.
Kiana.
No, it's Leora.
God damn it.
It's my turn.
Why don't I have any memory? The thing is that every time I get this wrong, I have to edit it out by getting it wrong. So every time I get it wrong, I have a punishment game, which is that I'm going to have to edit all of this out.
The longer
and yet,
you're talking, the more you're going to need to edit
This is why
out.
negative reinforcement doesn't work. No, the longer the bullshit thing is, the easier it is to find and edit. So I'm now dragging
fair,
this
fair.
out so that I can just snip it out.
I'm sorry.
So
right,
my
so
nominee in the
Coming up next is Leora.
my nominee in the category of worst mom, which I will say, wow, was there some steep competition this year, and yet easily my nomination goes to Mother of Glory from The Saint of Bright Doors. She rips away her son's shadow. She teaches him to murder by, like, age 9. And on top of all of that, she, like, is really good at the standard bad mom tricks of, like, calling and being like, well, I guess everything I sacrificed for you doesn't really matter to you.
I'm dying of a broken heart, and it's your fault.
So,
almighty.
because she really nails that whole range of bad momness, and even at the end, Feru still loves her, and, like, is really depressed when she dies after everything she's done to him. She is my nominee for worst mom.
She's such a bad mom.
Kiana?
Yeah, I don't even want to downplay how awful Mother of Glory is by attempting to submit an alternate candidate. In this case, I'm just going to concur.
In my notes, I have written down 1,000,000% Mother of Glory. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Again,
no,
there's some other really
tried
bad
to
moms, but like
pretend
yeah. So when
Baroness is the Baroness from
someone you can build a nest in,
yeah, she's a real bad mom.
for that matter, so is Shashan.
Shashan is also a really bad mom, but I feel like
Yeah.
the Baroness, she
uh,
also does both the monstrous,
Yeah.
like, I'm just raising a child to consume them, but also
Yeah.
I'm gonna undermine my daughter's self-worth at the same time.
Satsuki and
And
Ryuko's
Ophelia
mom.
from
Right.
yeah.
Ophelia from The Scholomance was another really terrible.
God, there's so many bad moms this year. Like,
This is a great year for bad moms.
again, many who could have been champions any year that Saint of Bright Doors wasn't in contention.
Right, but Saint of Bright Doors, there's no competition.
I mean,
Mother of
Tevi's
Glory.
mom
Oh,
sucks.
yeah, Tevi's mom also sucks. But no, yeah, I mean, Mother of Glory really is every single bad mom trope and, like, every single real life bad mom trick just distilled into one beautifully rendered portrait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you still feel for her.
Right.
You
She's
still
such
feel
a
for
good
her.
bad mom that she's such a good bad mom that she recreates the, like, abusive codependent relationship with you, the
Yeah.
reader.
Oh, and the grandma from The Spear Cut Through Water, who is a mom's mom, but still, you know.
It's also a really bad mom. Yeah, no, in any other year this would be a hard fought category. And in this case, there's not even a runner up.
Wow. Wow. All right.
Good job, Vadra. Best retro.
I have a technical question about the existence of Best Retro. Does that mean that, like, the Best Novel overall award can't go to a book that is older than whatever we decided the retro cutoff was?
Nah, I think it overlaps.
Nah.
matter in
I think that
practicalities of.
it's one of those things where you can be nominated for best rap album and for album of the year, you know?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So, not that I'm thinking about Kendrick all the time. So, not that he wasn't. Doechii won album of the year. No, Doechii won best rap album. And
Beyonce won best
Beyonce won
album.
best album of the year. Okay, stop me. All right, next. Yes, Kiana,
So,
please tell us.
Kiana.
It's me with the best retro. I'm nominating Carmilla, not Carmen's version. The original. Straight to the source. It's great.
Yeah,
That's all I have to say about it.
It's the most-
It's Carmilla.
it's so
if you haven't read
retro.
Carmilla, go read Carmilla.
it's the most retroist.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I'm gonna go to my backup.
Yeah.
Cause Carmilla's real good read. I enjoyed it. I'm nominating Ammonite, which I think did some really interesting things with the idea of the separatist, both the idea of the separatist lesbian colony and the gender plague thing, both in what was going on in the current zeitgeist, but also really interesting to read it back, having had a lot more gender plague kind of stuff, and so I really enjoyed that one. Plus, we got a plush ammonoid
Oh, yes.
from
Oh, yeah.
the Museum of the Earth, which we have named Marg, and is sitting here with us as we podcast. So I want, in tribute to Marg, our stuffed ammonoid, I will nominate Ammonite for best retro.
I was really, I was really sold on Carmilla, but Ammonite is actually, it's quite a good choice for retro specifically, just because it really delineates a certain moment in time very well. Partially, again, thanks to the very pointed author's notes that Nicola Griffith likes to put in. We know that this is in response to a particular wave of books, and is meant to be sparking a different wave of books, which I think in a way it did. Is sort of raising the torch of Le Guin against the sort of, more batshit female separatist lesbian stuff. And also, as we pointed out with Seneca, and then it brings up, like, a good, the archetypes that the lesbians in those books, that sort of overlap with Dykes to watch out for. If you want to understand Gen X lesbians and why some of them turned out this way, Ammonite is also a really good book to read. So
Totally.
I'm actually going to go for Ammonite, even though Carmilla is kind of undeniable.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was, Isaac, I think you've actually sold me on Ammonite as well, because it really, specifically the way that it delineates this transitional moment in time and is responding itself to another wave of retro proto-Wizzles books. Also, and I think that this is where the retro really comes into play. It's like Carmilla is a classic, but because of that, it's timeless in a way that Ammonite isn't quite.
That's really good. That's a good point.
And thus, for best retro, I am also going to give it to Ammonite.
Wow, that was
I was not
neither was I,
expecting
but I
that
think it's
result.
the right call.
Yeah.
I know. It ended up you ended up making a compelling argument.
Right. And now best nostalgia.
I'm gonna nominate for best nostalgia the Lyomouth Chronicles. They just feel so nostalgic. The way that they're written, the way that the book sits in your hand, it just really brings you back to
That cover art.
hunting through the cover art, the bit at the end where you're reading through all of the other lesbian books put out by by the Tiny Lesbian Press.
All the Rope President's Daughter romances, Secret Service agents romances.
Yeah. I only read Lyomouth Chronicles for the first time this year. It is not nostalgic as in, I remember reading this when I was young and it gives me emotions. But it feels like what I could have been reading when I was young. And reminds me very much of those classic sword and sorcery books, but lesbian, because that's what it is. And I just really enjoyed that.
Kiana.
Yeah. My vote for best nostalgia or most nostalgic is going to be Kill la Kill. Whether it's because you watched it back in 2013 or if you're watching it now, right, and have ever been an anime fan at any point in your life, it hits all the notes and also, like, surpasses it. It's kind of like, I don't know, the best case scenario for a work like that, I think. And it's nostalgic for me personally as well. Reminds me of 2013 Tumblr and seeing reactions roll in live.
Oh yeah, do you remember there used to be the X-Kit thing where you could replace anonymous icons with Satsuki's
I do remember
face?
that, her eyebrows.
These are both incredibly strong contenders for best nostalgia.
I even remember
however,
when
I gotta
people, sorry to interrupt, but people were shipping Ryuko and Satsuki like crazy.
And then
Up until
until
and it devastated some particular communities of fan artists. I just had to put that in there as a nostalgia.
No, boy,
edge.
that's as a moment in time. That said, I mean, I feel like for best nostalgia, I am an old millennial, and the Lyramouth Chronicles absolutely, brings me back to the 90s. And also, like, Lyramouth Chronicles is absolutely a book that I could have found in, scraping the shelves of the used bookstores of Atlanta. And so, also, again, the Xena thing. So I'm going to have to give it to the Lyramouth Chronicles.
Well, unfortunately, in the 90s, I hadn't yet realized that science fiction could be written by women. And so I do not have that memory. What I do have is a strong, and this is another part of nostalgia. It's the kind of nostalgia that leads to fascist tendencies. But it's the kind of nostalgia which is like, this is where it went wrong,
So you're trying to turn back time?
Exactly. I am the icebreaker. I am facing backwards. That's just for, anyway.
That's for the disc.
That's for the discount.
Yeah.
But
Well, hello there, son. I'm here about the disco counter. Name's Marshall. Yeah, you would have talked to Roland up at the main office. Don't worry, you're in good hands. I've been doing install jobs since before you were born. Shibboleths, buzzwords, discourse mills, patois, in-group, out-group valves, hot and cold running media, hyperfixations, hypofixations, HVAC. You name it, I've done it. Now, you said this is an upgrade, so you must have a... Say, son, that there is a beauty. Vintage 2009 Homestuck counter, or I'm a prescriptivist. You can see where they upgraded the Spad Jack down there for Normie Down conversion. Now, I know you're going to want that hauled, but you should consider holding on to it. These things keep their value. You never know when someone might want one. These kids downtown, they all want dick counters these days. Well, yeah, those two, but I meant Moby Dick counters. They want original woodwork, old growth floors, primordial memes, washer dryer combos that run on whale oil. You see, the folks who had it all ripped out wanted everything modern and edgy and minimal. They're hurting now. You turn around and sincerity's back in, and you just wasted 20 grand on a kitchen that hurts your feelings. Well, I thought so. Your loss. You probably didn't want to get it down those stairs anyway, did you? But I warned you, dog. I told you. Don't say I didn't. The icebreaker. Give me a break. Even people who like that stuff don't like it.
Kill la Kill feels to me like a moment in time where anime could have been hella good for the next decade and instead was shit for the next decade. Kill la Kill confused and baffled people, and the zeitgeist did not follow it where it was going. And as a result, we got a lot of garbage for a very long time before things finally have started to recover over the last like 4 or 5 years. And so for that reason, and also because I frankly don't have the same nostalgia hooks for that sort of book, I'm going to go with Kill la Kill. So it's up to Lee.
Oh, this is very difficult because these are both extremely nostalgic for me. Very much, there is sort of sense that Kill la Kill was the last anime genre to anime.
Yeah.
In many ways, if that makes sense. Like, this is a very Western interpretation of what anime is, right? That but it used to be that anime was considered a genre, and it's sort of vaguely shonen-y, but like it also included some shoujo aspects, and it was just sort of a thing, and that's very Kill la Kill. And I actually kind of agree with Isaac. I mean, there was definitely a sort of hey, you can keep your big jiggly boobs, but you have to admit that kinky people and queer people might have some humanity. And the entire anime fandom went, what? We would much rather give up our enormous breasts than admit that.
Really?
And then did. And now we have moe. Anyway,
Yes.
that is a historical, but it is my feeling in my heart. But also, Liarmouth Chronicles. I mean, I grew up. Alexis's thing is very targeted to me. I grew up with functionally infinite credit at the local used bookstore, and I read all the science fiction and fantasy that I could possibly get from there, which was a lot, and it was all kind of old, even at the time. And I have a lot of fond memories of, the books with gay people in, which were only published via these tiny little small presses that were desperately trying to sell you the rest of their catalog in the back of the book. So these are both very dear to my heart in different ways. And so I think I'm going to go with the Liarmouth Chronicles just because I want to support weird gay small presses that are desperately trying to sell their back catalog before they get taxed on it.
I was really not expecting Kill la Kill to get shut out here. Maybe there will be another opportunity further down the line.
I actually think how much I love it is biasing me against it a little bit, because it feels it is irrational the degree to which I like that show. And
I remember really being like, no, you've got to keep watching it, Lee. You're going to like it, I promise. I promise it's going to do something with the fascism thing.
It's only not my favorite anime because Utena exists.
So I have for next category, most disastrous couple.
Alrighty. I believe that it is Kiana's turn to go first.
Okay.
Yes.
I did not read this book. I listened to the podcast episode, so this is just going off the episode. The Book of Love has Susanna and Daniel. Just from my memory of the episode, they become like immortal, doomed demigods who can never even interact, but they're defined by their relationship for the rest of time, and it's bad. This is my memory of the episode, and that is my nomination. Oh, and they're heterosexual. Lest we.
And they're heterosexual.
Oh yeah, no, I mean my secondary candidate was also going to be a heterosexual couple, and this is not a lesbian couple. My nominee for most disastrous couple, unless you disqualify it, is Essek versus Six. They're both from These Burning Stars. They're both really defined by their obsession with each other. And that causes a great deal of death and destruction around the galaxy. That Essek's just going all over murdering folks, looking for Six. And, Six also, there's explosions, there's a ton of violence. And, it all comes from this one moment when Essek just decided to be really mean to a child, and that ends up defining the two of them for the next 20 years, leaving a trail of bodies in their wake.
Good nominees, both of you.
I am going to go with Susanna and Daniel here, just because it's not even supposed to be bad. As far as I can tell, the author doesn't think it's bad. It's very romantic to the author, and also because Essek and Six were not in a romantic relationship with each other. And that's what we meant by best couple.
There was
They
definitely
were at least as much of a relationship as last year's winner of most disastrous couple.
Yes, I will admit that we've often played fast and loose with this.
I knew we'd have to bring that up. Because,
it was
and
Zhu
Ouyang, right?
And Ouyang.
Yeah.
Ouyang.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
And I believe that last year I argued against Drew and Ouyang because they were not a couple.
How the world has turned.
But they won last year, so I took that that information in preparing my case this year.
I mean, there's definitely something psychosexual going on between Essek and Six. I think I'm going to go, though, with Laura and Daniel Susanna and Daniel, sorry. Susanna and Daniel, Laura's the other one, right?
Laura's Taylor Swift.
Because
not the Goth Queen of Hell.
Laura is lesbian Taylor Swift.
Or Chapel Roan, as we would call her.
No, she's not nearly interesting enough to be
I know.
Chapel Roan,
I did
don't
that
think.
purely to piss some people off, and I apologize for it.
Anyway, the real thing is, Essek and Six, if nothing, actually have this sort of fascinating chemistry that really drives the book. And Susanna and Daniel are such a disaster that, they also aren't even a particularly compelling couple, and yet they are a couple. And thus, for being an unmitigated disaster on every level, including just the lack of on-the-page chemistry, I think I gotta hand it to them.
I will also say, just for honorable mention, my backup disastrous couple was Angrboda and Loki.
Oh, that's also a very
Oh,
good
yeah.
nomination.
Oh, they were also
In the
disastrous
book
couple.
where they get extremely divorced.
I might have been more persuaded by that one, TBH. Next category is a hotly contested one this year.
Oh, yeah?
Most misinterest.
Oh, was it going to be hotly contested? I assumed that there would be one clear winner.
Well, we'll find out.
Daughters of a Coral Dawn, which features an extremely it's super misinterest. The only men that show up get violently murdered by the state for touching a woman. It is toofy, it's lesbian separatist in the worst way. It is not an appealing lesbian separatist colony for Goldilocks. It was just so wildly misinterest. That's my nominee.
Yeah, yet again, I don't want to downplay how comically misinterest Daughters of a Coral Dawn is, so I'm not even going to bother nominating an alternate contender.
If you had been first on this one, that is what I would have done as well.
It's
funny because in any other year, Daughters of Chaos,
Daughters of Chaos
would have walked away with it.
But no, there's no denying.
Daughters of a Coral Dawn has the distinction of being the only book that we have ever read that actively calls for the extermination of all males. So
yes, all males.
Right, it does, and actually, really giving it to Daughters of a Coral Dawn retroactively really does make the brother make a really an even stronger case for the brother winning best token dude, at least, because of the conspicuous absence of any such figure in Daughters of a Coral Dawn.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's got to be.
Yeah.
All right, and best frenemy, I think, is the last of the sort of is the last of the non-named categories.
Yes. Well, except for best book, which we saved for last.
Yes.
In classic award show style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I believe Kiana starts this one.
Yeah, my vote for best frenemy is Satsuki from Kill la Kill. It's a very compelling relationship up until, or even before and after their blood relationship is revealed. It's fun, it's violent, it's complicated. It's great. Satsuki and Ryuko from Kill la Kill.
My nominee, and I can't remember his name, I'm just calling him the kinky dude from Someone You Can Build a Nest In.
Oh, that's a fun one.
The kinky dude from Someone You Can Build a Nest In. The relationship starts out really adversarial. Sheshishen's just threatening him into helping out, and it's not clear whether or not he's going to betray her. But he discovers some things about himself, and by the end of the book, he ends up, like, being the one regular human that she talks to because he gets off on it, and she's like, all right, sure, you'll do the things that I want you to do, and I'll threaten to eat your bones, and you'll go do what you do with that, I guess. So he is my nominee for best frenemy.
I'm going with Satsuki for two reasons. One of which is that I don't want a Kill la Kill shout out. I want us to give Kill la Kill an award. Secondly, because as you said, Sasuke versus Ryoka has so much erotic, enemies to lovers charge if they weren't actually sisters, that it destroyed several fandom communities. And
It's potent. It's potent.
And third, because I didn't really like that thing from Someone You Can Build a Nest In. I didn't like that character, and although I think that it is true that being the ethical chaser can lead you into being an ally, I do not think that was a particularly good depiction of that process. So it's Satsuki for me.
He's truly the Hallie Mead of
masochism.
I was gonna say like bone-eating blob monsters. But yeah.
I mean, I did think that whole plot thing was actually pretty funny. But yeah, Satsuki and Ryuko's relationship is a real classic, real strong frenemy. Like, and it has that great evolution of I hate your guts to nobody can kill you but me to actually now we are teaming up to, I'm your sister and I'm going to third wheel on your date.
Yes.
So no, it's a real strong frenemy relationship. And I am not at all surprised to hear that it destroyed several fandom communities. The reveal that they were sisters. So yeah, nope, it's got to be Satsuki.
Oh yeah.
Yes, at least in the Western fandom, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's still plenty of Ryoko Satsuki material.
I'm sure there is, but
It destroyed several fandoms and then
It's not
sparked new
Narusasu,
ones
though.
from the ashes.
Right. And then sprouted several more.
yes.
I realize it's unanimous, so I don't need to weigh in, but I really think Satsuki's arc is one of the best. Just a really convincing arc, and really interesting. The whole I have to become a fascist to stop the even greater evil, and then, well, shit, that actually didn't work.
Right.
Yeah,
It's so great. Like you just like that trope is so common in anime. I wonder why, and like you just never see it like fail. Like it's not, it's like, oh, that didn't work. Okay, I guess we're gonna try something else now.
It turns out the master's tools were shit and brittle, and they're not tearing down this house at all. Oh,
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, also, like, just, the way that Satsuki and Ryoko's relationship is shaped by Satsuki's relationship with her mom, where it's, I have to destroy you because I have to protect the world from this person. And then it becomes, no, I have to protect you from our mother. You, my sister. Like, it's so good.
Yes. Well, I'm glad we gave Kill la Kill its flowers at least there right before we go into the informal stuff.
Yes, so we have the Whale Award for Most Disruptive Plot Twist.
It's the whale again. I'm so proud of It's Hallel again for Moby Dick. It's gonna be one that only somebody who's listened to like all of our episodes will get that.
Yeah.
But I'm so proud of it. Anyway,
No, they're
the whale.
It
very
was
good.
good and you should be.
The whale award for most disruptive plot twist. Lyra.
My nominee comes from a book that I unironically love, even though Isaac especially did not. I read it for comfort. It's great. You think that the book is going one way, which is into this complicated metaphor about giving minorities rights when they seem kind of inhuman, and what's happening with that, and this love story, and then all of a sudden we veer left, and we are going to Las Vegas to try to rescue your terrible surrogate brother-ish person.
Speaking of
frenemies, from this like casino guy who's holding him captive for some reason.
with a boy band.
With a boy band. Like, don't forget this involves a boy band. So my nominee for the Whale Award goes to the Las Vegas Caper from Saints Astray.
The Whale Award for most disruptive plot twist would have to be God or / the perfect and kind retconning the entirety of reality in The Saint of Bright Doors. Just undoing it. It just didn't happen.
I think my problem is that that's not a particularly disruptive plot twist. That works. It works really well with the metaphors that have already been set up and the structure of the plot. So it doesn't feel disruptive. It doesn't make me go, what? What now? It made me go, oh no, that makes perfect sense.
It made me go, what
it made
now?
me.
I'm just
I mean,
gonna
it
say that
it
made me go, what now?
I don't think it like.
Not in a
Not in a
negative
bad way, but it did like take me off guard for sure. But I take your point.
Maybe this is just me being a historian. I went, oh yes, of course, literally rewriting the past totally makes sense with like the post-colonial stuff that's already going on in this book. So I am going to give it to Saints Astray because, yeah, I mean, you have no idea where this, like, suddenly we're taking a boy band to Las Vegas to rescue a guy. It makes absolutely no sense.
But it's a whole lot of fun. We get to put our, like, sort of bioengineered feral mutant werewolf into a sexy devil costume. Just 'cause.
Sexy devil made costume.
Oh, yes. Sexy devil made costume because the casino is heaven and hell themed.
Right. So, in other words, I'm giving it because that one doesn't make any sense. And to me, the retconning of the past did.
I'm in two minds about this one, partially because the Whale Award here is not being given to a book; it's being given to the space between a book and its sequel. It is one ongoing plot certainly, but it's still like Santa Olivia is doing one thing and Saints Astray is doing another thing. So if we're going to talk technicalities, it's not really, chaos happening midstream in a narrative. But you're right. It is so completely bizarre given what the tone and sort of theme that we've already established, that we're suddenly doing like Spy Kids. We're doing like Charlie's Angels with these characters that we already, sort of got to know in this like, colonial border stuff metaphor. That I will give it to Saints Astray. The entire book of Saints Astray. That's the Whale Award for most destructive plot twist.
Right, like it just completely changes in the entire first book. You go, oh, I shouldn't take this nearly as seriously as I thought the author wanted me to.
Yeah, pretty much. And really, I would probably have enjoyed it more had it not, had I not been expecting the other thing to happen. So,
Right.
Our newest award.
We have introduced a new award for, as you've noticed, we often have books, usually small press books or independently published books that we just sort of declare our special little guys because they're weird and interesting and ambitious and kind of messy, and we love them. And so in honor of possibly the greatest of our special little guys, Valhalla, we are inaugurating the Valhalla Award for Special Little Guy.
Yes. Kiana.
Yes, my vote goes to Ex-Wives of Dracula. It is bizarre,
It is
tonally,
all of those things that you just
tonally
said.
inconsistent. It's like offensive to some, on a lot of different axes, but it's so much fun. You never know really where it's gonna go next. This book was so much fun, unexpectedly. Ex-Wives of Dracula.
Yeah. I find that really compelling.
What was your nominee?
That.
Oh,
but
yeah,
also,
that
I
makes
do have
sense.
a backup.
Sorry.
The Liarmouth Chronicles. No, I've already done ones that you were gonna nominate. Like, we're fine here.
Some of these are gimmies.
The Liarmouth Chronicles were also a special little guy.
Yeah.
It's not like they're particularly well written. The plot is not particularly surprising in any way, and yet I just found myself loving them, and I felt that in your podcast as well.
It was a good year for special little guys, also.
Really was.
Yeah, it
And
was.
it's-
Like, I feel bad that All Good Children hasn't gotten a
I
shout
was
out
thinking
yet.
that earlier too. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't think it fits into any of these categories, but it was such a
Best,
compelling
saddest book that
book.
we liked.
Yeah.
Goes.
grimmest,
Yeah.
grimmest Wizzlas. Grimdark.
Well, yeah, that's the Divine Endurance Award for saddest
yeah.
book.
We could
Hey,
do,
why not?
We could do a most depressing right now. I declare that there is a divine endurance word for most depressing Wizzles, and
It goes
It
to All
goes
Good
to
Children.
All Good
Yes.
Children.
All in favor?
For
Aye.
I think it's not for most depressing. I think it's for best incredibly sad book.
I like that better.
Because there are books that are depressing that we did not
Yes.
enjoy.
But okay, so Isaac, you get to put in the first vote.
yes, it's going to Ex-Wives Dracula. I think Ex-Wives really embodies the spirit of Valhalla, and
Yes,
particularly
totally.
in that, like, there are parts of it that are just, you would be like, oh, careful about that. I don't know how I feel about that.
Where are you
Right.
going?
It still,
Whoa,
but it
whoa.
still ends up being like a great time at the end of the day. I think the closest that Liarmouth comes to that is the starting off on the island and then holy shit, suddenly we're in bisexual utopia on the
Utopia.
mainland, which also could have been a whale award
True.
thing.
True.
But
Oh, that could have also been a whale award. Also Liarmouth Chronicles has already won something, and Ex-Wives of Dracula absolutely deserves an award. Like, the Liarmouth Chronicles, among other things, won, best nostalgia, but I feel like that true spirit of this was bonkers, but I loved it, really has, Ex-Wives of Dracula just really nailed it.
Even when you two recorded that podcast, you had this like incredulous tone in both of your voices. Even
I can't
while like
believe we
talking
liked
about
this
everything that was
much.
wrong with it. But you're like,
30
Right?
pages into that book, I thought it was going to be awful, and I was hating every second.
yeah,
of it.
I was
And
reading it out
then-
loud to you, and we were both like, "What the fuck is this?"
And then over time, that's instantly. You said that you wanted to give a.
I love that jingle when you're like, and she went around the house, and then she walked up to the thing, and then just like how
the
parts
beginning
of it are
where she's
written.
just describing every single action that a character does because
So
she hasn't
weird.
figured out what to leave out of that you don't need from the action. But like that book is almost somebody learning to write a novel
Yes,
in real
it gets
time.
so much better as it goes.
And like that's, I mean, you love to see it. So
You love to see it. No, it absolutely deserves the inaugural Valhalla Award.
Yay.
yeah, and also congratulations to the winner of the inaugural Divine Endurance Award for unbelievable sadness.
Yes. For best work of unbelievable sadness.
Yeah, best work of unbelievable sadness. On that note, I was telling Isaac that I was checking some publication details, so I was on the Goodreads page for that, and one of the top reviews was like, "This was my first foray into queer fiction."
Oh no.
And I was like, "No, how?" They loved it, but they were like, "Oh, are they all like this?" It was so sad and grim.
It's sort of like showing people Utena as their first anime. in
Or
a
like
way.
Grave of the Fireflies and like thinking that's
Yeah.
that's anime.
All right.
All right, so we have
Casual discussion bits before we get
we
into
have casual discussion bits. This one's gone long enough that maybe we should just skip those and go straight to the.
I did want to say...
I do actually. I do have an apology.
Okay.
I know we've previously done apologies at certain points,
Yeah.
and I do have an apology to offer based on a previous award.
Okay.
Which is, I would like to apologize to Mihit Dismar, who I did not vote for Best Lesbian in the first Wizzlies. I finally got around to reading A Memory Called Empire, and I was not familiar with her game. Like, I owe her an apology. The fact that in the second to last scene of the book, she says to herself, "Well, me not telling my crush I like her even after we made out that one time, if you think about it, is anti-colonial." Which may be the most lesbian thing that anyone has ever thought.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
I just want to apologize to
No,
her.
that's legit.
Okay. In the same spirit, I do have a couple of random things I want to say. First of all, we haven't mentioned Night in the Woods at all, and I like Night in the Woods. It didn't really fit into any of the categories, but judge's
But it's
choice
good.
award to Night in the Woods. And the other thing is that under what book have you reconsidered? I must apologize to Sappho's Bar and Grill because I didn't know how much worse it could get. Now I do.
I feel like I mean I've already done my apology to Light from Uncommon Stars for basically going, yeah, there's the stuff that annoys me about it still annoys me about it, but it compared to so much of the stuff I've read since, that book is actually I was not giving it enough credit for the things it does really well. I honestly kind of feel like at this point I want to retroactively say that we shouldn't have been we should have been a little more positive towards Battle of the Linguist Mages, because
Wow.
it turns out things
Wow.
could get a lot worse.
Not only that, but if you want to talk politically prescient, that book knew what was coming.
Yeah.
So, and it was.
It turns out that part of what we hated about it was, the future that it
we
depicted.
hated it because it told the truth. Yeah. No. No. That is the classic. Like, I hate the vibe that this book is giving me because it is really accurately portraying people I hate, and also it is doing good like textual unity by also being doing the kind of stuff that I hate about the people that I hate.
Wow.
It's very difficult to not then just hate the book, and that is what happened with Battle of the Linguist Mages. But yes, shout out to
That's
Sappho's
great.
Bar and Grill. It had a couple of jokes that were funny in it.
Yeah.
Right.
It did not advocate for the extermination
of man.
of every man on Earth.
Yeah.
It does somewhat advocate for, the extinction of gender studies as a field, but
I didn't say it was good. I said that.
I know. What I'm saying is
exactly.
exactly.
We
it
are
turns
underneath
out,
the bar. We are digging with our shovel.
The impression that I get from the review is that it had less ephebophilia.
Yes, also that.
Not none.
Not none,
Less.
but
There
less.
was that bit with the time traveling student from the future who thought she was hot. But anyway.
Right, not none, but less.
All right. But
Okay,
without
so-
further ado, whose turn is it to nominate Book of the Year? Not that it matters. We know what it's going to be.
Count down 3, 2, 1.
We can do it together, Kiana.
All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. The Saint of Bright Doors. Yes.
And let's hear it for Kiana and Leora, who managed to sync that up with the lag without me having to edit it at all, which is extremely impressive. See,
All
that's
right.
here for Wizzly.
Yes, I am going to cast my vote for the Saint of Bright Doors. Isaac, how about you?
I believe that the best book that we read this year was Saint of Bright Doors, because the Saint of Bright Doors, and I feel a little weird about this since Vajra reached out to us after the podcast came out.
Yeah, but we didn't before we reviewed his book. So,
Yeah, so now Vadra's been on the podcast, which was great, and he's cool. But
A great episode, by the way.
yes,
Yeah,
Very,
I
very
do want to
good.
give a shout out to that. There wasn't anything that I felt
yeah,
like it
the
would be
Ministry of
nominated
Time.
for, but the Ministry of Time.
also a very good book.
Yeah.
It's a very
I
good
did
book.
consider the time-traveling lesbian who's on Tinder for...
Oh,
She would've
she's
been
good.
a
Oh,
That's a
her
good
best
pick.
lesbian. Oh,
She was
she's
on my
great.
list, but I couldn't put it above Tabby.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that The Stand of Great Doors was probably the best book to be published in 2023, so...
Yeah, really not much that we can do about that. It's a classic work of literature, and that's not usually what we cover on this podcast. So
Right, and it is the book that I keep telling people they should, like... Before reading Moby Dick, it was the book I was obnoxious about telling anybody and everybody that they should read. Now it's going to be Moby Dick until, I read something else. But,
and
even
stay tuned,
like...
folks, for
Even Friday before last, I was telling somebody that he absolutely had to read The Saint of Bright Doors. So, yeah.
Yeah.
all right,
4 years, guys.
4 years.
Oh, it's so good.
I'm so happy. This has turned from being a hobby that let me practice guitar basically into this thing which I think we can both be really proud of, Alexis. Honestly, I think that we've done.
Yeah.
Yes, you should
I think
both
you
be
should
very
be
proud.
very proud.
I am very proud of it. And it has really given a shape to my reading, which is sometimes good and sometimes bad. But, it encourages me to read new things when otherwise I would just reread Murderbot for the 20th time. And and we've gotten to bring on some authors, and it has been a ton of fun. And I'm so glad that, Isaac, you continue to be willing to do all of the editing.
Thank you. He said, looking at the 1 hour and 48 minutes that they're currently selling past. I want to say, in previous years, I've always said, well, we do this for our own fun. It doesn't matter if anybody listens to it. I'm going to get a little bit pretentious this time and just say that I think that the kind of criticism that we try to do on this podcast has been out of fashion for a while. And I think that it's important to do this kind of criticism if you want people to make things that are actually good and to reward that. If you want to reward complexity and reward ambition, you need criticism that takes that up and is like, this is complex and ambitious, and that's important and good, and how it made me feel is of a secondary concern. And so I think that there should be more people out there doing stuff like what we are doing. And that's the limit of my already enormous ego. So
Well said.
I really enjoy the podcast.
Me too.
all right, we
It's a very good podcast.
okay, we have to stop this now.
All right, okay, this is enough. This is enough back patting. Yes, but anyway, also, we say that we do this for our own fun, and it's 100% true, but we are very grateful to the people who listen, particularly the ones who write in with recommendations. Even the ones who write in with recommendations of books we end up hating, like, say, Daughters of Chaos. We nonetheless are grateful to you guys for listening and giving me new things to read.
Absolutely. At this point, we couldn't do it without you because we simply couldn't shovel enough books into the hopper. So thank you.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're stop. This episode can't be longer than the Moby Dick episode.
Right.
Good night, all.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.